Martin Lambert, how the devil?
That's me. Good to see you again.
I can't really say welcome to Liverpool because you're a native.
Yeah, although it was a good prompt to get me down. It must be, I don't know if I've been this year, to be honest, but yeah, nice to come back. A little bit of fresh air on Crosby Beach before I came in here.
Agile Coach, Scrum Master, Guide, Consultant and Trainer.
You can see I'm experimenting with titles at the moment.
Yeah, you got a few on the catch-all, isn't it?
Yeah.
But receptive, empathetic and straightforward. You're a patient and insightful Agile Coach, Consultant and Trainer who guides individuals and teams to their own solutions at the right pace for their context. Bit of history. I remember shadowing you for another consultancy we were both doing some training for. And I remember watching you and going, this guy takes no shit.
I remember it equally the other way around. I thought, this guy knows what he's doing. He can do training with his eyes closed.
I was winging it back then. But yeah, I just remember like we were really calm. The people we were training were going through an agile transformation and some of them were a bit combative in that particular. You might not even remember, but I just remember thinking, fair play. I wouldn't like to get on the wrong side of him. I mean, is that description fair? Receptive, empathetic, straightforward?
I'm doing what I can. Straightforward, I hope. Yeah. Maybe the rest I'm, work in progress, like all of us, eh?
So I like to pick out a LinkedIn post, in your case, an article, to try and, just see the root of it, really. You wrote an article, nice picture of Imagine, I think where John Lennon was shot. And then I think from what I see here, it's called Someone. And you're basically describing the type of person that, could make a good Scrum Master. Is that fair? And where did this article come from? I'll link it in the notes as well.
Yeah, I chose that one because it seemed to go down quite well.
Yeah, I can see by the...
I messed up the title a little bit. It was meant to be Imagine Someone, but Imagine was the picture, and then the title became Someone. So I don't know if
I like it, to be fair. I think
that fade sort of did it down a little bit, but it was kind of a bit of a rallying cry, really, for the Scrum Master. I'd been. I am a great believer in the power of the role and the uniqueness of the role, and I'd seen a couple of things recently, and somebody wrote something about Scrum Masters. Are they rising from the ashes? And I didn't quite see it that way, but I got the gist of it. Like, this role has a value, has a unique value. So that triggered me to write that article the way I did, and it talks about imagine someone who's got the respect without the rank and the authority. Imagine someone who's empathic. Imagine someone who's disruptive in the organization. It's all from Jeff Watts' Good to Great Scrum Mastery book, using the Retrained acronym.
Yeah.
I'm plugged into that in a manner of speaking, working with Jeff to promote those pathways and those learning modules based around the book. But when I bought the book 8-9 years ago, I looked at it and went, right, something to do here. Am I really empathic and tactful as I could be? And I thought, no, it's a learning journey for me as well. So I've been leaning into that for a long time. And I suppose it was almost a rallying cry to Scrum Masters to say, are you doing these? Do you have these soft skills and these attributes? And are you living them and leaning into them? Because very often I see, and I do this myself, you get sort of institutionalized a little bit, but you end up working with the team and you get good results there and you get harmony, but it's often very kind of mechanical, and it's almost you and the team versus the rest of the system, which it shouldn't be. I mean, the team appreciate you being there usually, but these aren't numbers to measure, but 50% inward focus and rough 50% outward focus, looking at the systemic problems is what I find is a good kind of benchmark or signpost for Scrum Masters to follow. It's also aimed at if anyone who hires Scrum Masters or is thinking of hiring one, who's got them already, reads it, to alert them to just how unique the role could be. There's this obligation, perhaps not above, but unlike any other roles, such as analysts or delivery managers or whatever. But the Scrum Master has, I believe, carries this obligation to show up and be alternative and inspiring and resourceful. And it's not to say that other roles can't do it, but there's this, the Scrum Master is the vehicle for that.
Yeah.
So it was definitely in support of the Scrum Master.
Yeah, I think it's a good read, and like I said, I'll put it in the description box. So before that, though, take us back. I know how literally you got here today, because we spoke about the weather, but what's your background? Is it tech? Is it project management? Is it a mixture of what's the high level journey for Martin?
Can I go back 30 autumns? Just give me age away there.
Yeah.
But I do that because it was round about that time, 30 autumns ago, that I found myself in my first project job. I've been working for British Airways in Newcastle, telephone sales. I enjoyed that. But every week in the company newspaper, there was like a whole page of jobs, and they were exotic, jobs you never heard of in head office, and inventory management jobs and country manager jobs around the world. And, gradually people from telesales the people who wanted to began to peel off and move away. And I thought, this is going to come to me. So I applied for this job called Channel Development Consultant.
Sounds fancy.
I didn't know what a channel was, and I didn't really know how to be consulted on the development of one. But I got an interview and I got the job. I think it was one of those. There's times in your life that somebody gives you a break, and perhaps they don't realize just how much it's going to change in your life. And this was one of those occasions, because I found myself going straight into a technology revolution.
Yeah.
My first project, Exhibit 1 here, was this was the camera there. Now, this was we developed what I now know as the world's first flight booking app.
Bloody hell.
Yeah. So we didn't have, mobile phones were not common. They were still half bricks and only did phone calls in those days. But
you didn't rob that, did you?
No.
I
I think the audit trail is long gone cold. But PDAs, personal digital assistants, the tech bros and the poseurs of the day had these things, and this was one of the leading ones. It's called the Apple Newton. 15 years too early, but it's the grandfather of the iPhone. It's touchscreen. It's got apps which third parties can develop. Connects to the internet, gives you notifications.
It fits in your pocket.
It's the size of a modern mobile phone as well. So, it was walk straight into that. We were I walked into a very experimental kind of research and development, very small department in distribution, and we were trying to change the whole model, really. And we were throwing stones at the glass, and this was the first one. The product failed for Apple. The project failed because it was considered too disruptive. Senior managers got cold feet about upsetting the travel trade, and it was pulled. But it didn't matter because we were throwing the stones at it.
Yeah. So who would have had one? Like if it was a success, what was?
Well, in those days, the vast majority of booking came through the travel trade, and so they had a real, massive hold on the distribution, and it cost. Considering you didn't have to transport anything anywhere, it was just a paper ticket. It was a hell of a cost to that. So we positioned it to give it to frequent flyers. People who are tech aware, obviously, who were willing to, because you had to plug it into a phone socket and be willing to go along with the tech. But we wanted to give it to direct bookers to get them to trial the concept and see if the appetite for self-booking was even a thing.
Yeah.
Now, of course it is.
Yeah.
My next project after that was see if we can put flight sales on the internet. Probably got legs, right?
Yeah.
So I just found myself in the right place at the right time, and I rode that wave for a number of years. It just grew and grew and grew. Every 6 months, we were, exponentially growing. In terms of Agile and why I'm here talking to you, it didn't get a look in. There was no sign of it at all. It was just hammer it through until it gets there. We did inspect and adapt, I guess, but there was no technique. So it wasn't until about 2010, I was working in British Gas at the time, and I was a business analyst looking after a team, and the inevitable collision with the Scrum rollout thing arrived. And I remember some of those early incarnations of it. The first sprint planning, read the requirements until the lead developer throws his hands up and squeaks, But I got better at it, and we had some successes. And then when I did my CSM, paid for that. I've always paid for my own training and development. But it was with Radtak, who we met through. And I remember Pete saying, I think you've got this. I was going, but I would have done it this way. He says, yeah, you're right. And it gave me huge confidence. So shortly after that, I went into the contracting market as a Scrum Master.
Pete who, just so?
Pete, it was Pete Measy. Okay. I think he was one of the founders, wasn't he? I went into the contract market, billing myself as a Scrum Master and getting success there. But then, if this isn't going on too long, why am I sitting here talking to you rather than just at a desk doing Scrum Mastery? I began to read or explore about Agile coaching. I felt there has to be a bit more, the softer skills and the people skills. So I took myself off to an Agile Coaches retreat in Seattle. So it was quite a substantial thing to do.
Yeah.
And I remember this because they said, send a photo in before you go, before the event. And we print them all out and put them on the wall. And as you go into the big room, they said, find your photo and draw a line between you and all the people that you know.
Oh, right, okay.
To show what a great interconnected community of Agile coaches we are. So symbolically, there's me on the edge, no lines, not a single line that I could draw. I didn't know a soul there, and I threw myself in at the deep end there.
That's brave.
Yeah, guy.
There is one on the Wirral. You do know that, don't you?
You
didn't have to go. There is one on the Wirral as well.
I cancelled that one.
Oh, right, okay.
But a guy I met there said, what you want to do is, if you get a chance, go on Lisa Adkins' course. He says it's amazing. Okay, yeah. And as it happened, Lisa brought that course to London later that year, coaching Agile teams. Her and Michael Spade, got myself on it. And it was amazing.
Learned from the best there.
Yeah, the vibe that they created that day, those 3 days was still feed off it.
Yeah. I'm going to turn the questions around, because since then, when I was digging in a bit deeper, you're part of the team who created the Agile Coaching Growth Wheel. Yeah. Well, your name's on the front of it. So, again, I'll link it in the description, because I think it's a very useful tool. But what is it, and how did you end up getting involved in that?
It's this. Well, this is my battered copy, which is sort of pre-production version. But it is a tool for journeymen, journey people, coaches. The name Agile Coach, Agile Coaching, part of the Growth Wheel title. It's, perhaps we wouldn't pick that now. We have debated about changing the name because the term is perhaps not as popular as it was. Yeah. It was 6 years old, and we're not going to change it. It's a tool for people to plot their own growth and development. It has a range of competencies in it, things like serving, coaching, facilitating, guiding, learning, etc. It builds on, I mentioned Lisa Atkins and Michael's model, the X-Wing, the famous 4 stances of the Agile Coach and the masteries which underpin
Agile Coaching Competency Framework.
It's written as, coaching, mentoring, teaching, facilitating. Yeah. So you move between the 4 stances. You know the stances, and you deliberately choose the one. You got different masteries underpinning it: business, transformation, and technical, and agile practitioner skills over the top. Great model, still is a great model, but it's got gaps in it. It doesn't talk, for example, about consulting or advising. Yeah. And neither did it have any kind of calibration. I mean, Lisa gave us Shuhari, which is a little bit out there, but a sufficiently different language, I think, that it was right at the time to shake up the way people were thinking about learning and their own growth. But, you can't calibrate Shuhari. It's just a subjective, sort of somewhat mystical thing. So what we did, we added a Dreyfus scale level of competencies on it. So if you wanted to be better at facilitating, you could look it up and see, well, am I at beginner level or am I at advanced beginner? And it gives you just a few bullet points, so you know, if you can plan your own events, for example, then you're probably at advanced beginner. But if you facilitate someone else's, you're just beginners. That kind of thing. It came about again from one of these agile coaching retreats. This one was only local down in London.
Yeah.
Mark Summers, the main guy behind this, he's driven it forward for years. But yeah, it was open space, and I joined his group, and we wanted to explore kind of journey map for coaches. It also, if I can say, it got this version of the tool got a boost in 2020-21 because Bob Galen, who's a pretty well-known coach on stateside, he wrote a somewhat provocative article which was about agile coaches need more than coaching skills, because there was a feeling, he was definitely picking up on it, that it's all, or it's not all, but it's very often when you're with a client, you go into this, coaches were going into the coaching mode, and the client's going, well, shall I use Scrum or Kanban for my implementation team? And the coach is going, well, what do you think? And how does that make you feel? It's
it depends.
Stop doing this coaching stuff. I'm paying you for advice. So he said it's important that we don't just coach all the time. So he got behind it. He's used it in his badass coaching book, and I played a small part in it, Jack, to be honest. I said, I don't think I'm able to really author this thing, but I'd love to be involved initially as your typical user, because I'm the journeyman coach. So I did that, but then I also did get involved in its sort of editing, creation, feedback, and became part of the group.
Got to be proud of that.
I am. It's been successful. It really has been one of these things that's come out of one of those retreats, and people have used it in organizations around the world, and it's doing a good job.
Is there any? Is it going to be as it is, or you mentioned this debate about name change? Is that it now? Is that going to be
for now? We certainly feel it's done. I mean, we might. The group still meets. It's a lot less formal and action oriented than we were. I mean, ironically, there was no trace of agile in what we were doing when we were putting this together. Yeah. We go backwards and forwards over and over it until it got out there. But no, it's out there. We've looked at adding things to it, but for now, it is what it is.
Yeah. And has your view on what agile is changed over the years? So there's a question here of what does agile mean to you?
Yeah.
So does what it means to you today differ from what it used to mean, or has it been pretty consistent throughout?
No, I think it has to. I think I'd crystallize it in a different way now. I'd crystallize it, the answer to that question in, it's about how we decide to instinctively treat emerging information, change, if you like. I mean, when I was working on some of those projects I mentioned as a business analyst or project exec, whatever we were called, it was something would always come up, as it always does, and I was like, "Oh, next time, I'll write better requirements, or next time I'll make sure that development doesn't slip, or make sure the testing is better," whatever it was. Often I'd sort of berate myself if I couldn't find anyone else to berate about what went wrong. So, but it never got. I'm not going to say it never got any better, but something always came up, and it wasn't until I don't know if I read this or saw a picture where if you plot knowledge and time, the graph kind of goes up. So it's just pointing out the obvious. In all other walks of life, the more time we spend on something, the more we know about it, whether it's a project or walking the dog. So, why do we behave differently when we encounter product development or project work? And I think this boils down to me for the welcome change in requirements agile principle. And the key word there is welcome, as in I'm genuinely happy that this new piece of information has arrived. If you think about that, often you're not, because it's like, I finished that and now you're telling me this. But we have to sort of try and turn that around and go, okay, it doesn't mean we have to suddenly yield and delay whatever we're doing, but I've now got better information. I can make a better decision than I otherwise would have done, and I want to celebrate that.
Yeah,
you kind of do in all other walks of life. So, yeah, that's how I'd encapsulate it.
Yeah. You obviously go into organizations to help them out. When you do that, in terms of agile agility, maybe there's a bit of workplace culture sprinkled in. In your opinion, where the organizations tend to go wrong from your experience? Maybe not wrong, but have trouble.
I'd hesitate on wrong.
Yeah, have trouble.
Yeah, because there's a lot of language out there about that at the moment. Like suddenly everyone, or not, a lot of what you get on LinkedIn, particularly the main source of info, right, is Agile's not about this. It should be about that. And I'm looking at some of this and go, well, okay, yeah, where were you? We're part of this. It's like something I read stuck with me from the Toyota way, which is if the mentee doesn't learn and grow, it's on the mentor.
Yeah.
And I think we could do well to look at that rather than just broadcasting to whoever might read it that why it's wrong. Where's the part in
this wasn't on the list, but do you think the Agile community sometimes doesn't do itself any favors? It's just eating itself.
Absolutely, it's totally eating itself. Yeah. There's a handful of people who are trying to turn it round, and there's probably a handful within that handful who are not, or who are, for me at least, and everything's subjective, but really tuning into the principles behind it. But where I think, going back to the original question, if wrong or more work is needed, let me put it that way, is in the awareness. The awareness of, especially people who have influence, especially in their behaviours, affecting what they say they want. Because I think the vision statements that I see now are good. I mean, years ago, I didn't see things like empowered or autonomous teams in the mission statements. It was all about Scrum and perhaps velocity and stuff like that, and 100% agile, whatever that means. But now you do see we want autonomous, empowered teams, and yet when it comes back to the world of work, a lot of people do things that pull in the other direction. I mean, I was with a client who had that kind of vision, and I was fortunate I had the chance to sort of test it with them. I put their own words up on the screen and said, are you still up for this? Is anyone sort of worried about their own contribution to getting this? And like, no, we're up for it. It'll be hard, but yeah, we're going to do it. And I gave examples. I said, that means you have a product owner who decides the work and these other lines of work stop. Yeah, we're ready for that. You go back to the office and, they're still telling individuals what to do in the Scrum teams, signposting that way and walking the other way. So that connection of behaviour to result, I think, needs a lot of work.
How would you go about changing that or working on that?
You've got to be tactful. Pointing out examples of, do you realise that when this action occurred, that I've seen you, I've observed you doing it. It's a choice you've made, which is not commensurate with what you say you want. And you often get, but we've got to be practical. Okay, well, yeah, sometimes you can choose to override the signpost because you've got something on fire that you need to deal with. I'm not going to stand in the way of that. But if you do it every time, you're not going to get to where you want.
Yeah. Hello, folks. Sorry to interrupt this video, but if you have got this far, it would really help if you did subscribe to the channel. Because it's face-to-face, it makes convincing people a lot easier to travel up all the way to Liverpool to record in this lovely studio. So, like I said, please subscribe and thanks for watching. Are there any specific things or ingredients, as I like to write, I'm not really sure why, that organizations can benefit from in terms of Agile in your experience? Are there any like things that you would consistently do in every client that just, not all the time, because nothing works 100% of the time, but what are the like the Billy basics that you believe are fundamental to success, whatever success looks like, or change?
Yeah, it's a good question. I I would say space to do what I've just described, space to have to create that awareness. Because if everything's full on, sometimes you can't even have that conversation in a comfortable way. I think also now, with Agile as the product and the model, the industrial complex, whatever you want to call it, the way it is, it's. I think we need sensitive, good practitioners, perhaps more than ever, because the agility is needed. The help is still needed. Okay, there's a lot of closed ears to it right now, perhaps, but I think the way forward there is to keep the principles, but in a tailored, blended way, without the foie gras forcing it down your throat thing, and that's a very fine line. Something simple example: the daily Scrum. I don't want to say it's universally hated, but there's plenty out there who don't enjoy it. So, fine. I would like to say I will say that I believe you can transcend it. It is just a mechanism to create a habit, for those who are not used to the habit originally, isn't it? So as long as you are having the genuine collaboration, then fine, transcend it. But that's not the same as saying we don't need it because we're too busy, so can we just put an update in Slack, because it's missing the whole purpose and the principle of it, and then you're taking one of the legs of the stool away. So I think a sensitive practitioner, a sensitive application from a good practitioner would help organizations steer through that very murky water. I'd also add safety in that I know SAFE, as in the Scaled Agile Framework, they talk about having have a burning platform, because that creates a sense of urgency. And I think there can be truth to that. I mean, look what happened during COVID and the way the vaccine technology accelerated like 10 years in one. So urgent need. But I don't think that works for everybody. Some people are hedgehogs and they just curl up and wait for it to pass. Some people are horses and they run away. Some people will fight it and deal well with a burning platform. So I think more safer spaces to experiment, and with that, hopefully a bit of quietness to create the awareness that I mentioned in the first point.
Is that a hard sell when you go in? Not as in like a salesman way, but like like you're, what you're describing, I totally agree with, and I'm sure in a different way to yourself try and promote that, but it is a tough one, isn't it?
I think I would. That wouldn't be necessarily part of a normal sales pitch. I mean, you've brought it out of me in this conversation here, and somebody else might, but I would. I think I'd read the air much more depending on who I was talking to. I'd point at, we need to create awareness, and as your experience grows, you get more stories like, okay, we tried it when there wasn't space, when everyone was too busy, and it crowded out the appetite for change.
We spoke before the chat about bringing awareness of agile techniques to small, medium businesses and non-IT. I saw you'd been doing you've done, was it the Preston Business Expo?
It was the Cumbria one.
Cumbria Business Expo. Like, how have you been attacking that particular topic in your own business and life? Because I did the same one in Liverpool. Did you? So it'd be good to...
Yeah, we'll compare notes after then. Hey, perhaps it's unique to that region. There's a massive percentage of micro businesses in that region, and a lot of them are showing up at the network events and the expo. So I think I'd have to pick and choose a bit more who I get in front of. The kind of business agility is the term I'm leaning to here, and as a description rather than a product. But I have been talking to the folks at the BAI, the Business Agility Institute, to see how to bring that perhaps to life a little bit more in terms of micro consultancy. The key is talking in terms of business problems. I mean, for example, I was talking to someone earlier this week. It may or may not go somewhere, but she totally different sector, not IT at all. She was telling me about I've got problems with too much work in progress. I've got problems with silos and people being too busy and work coming in from left field. It's all totally recognizable. But I'm not going to go and say, right, what you need is a Scrum Master and let's have a product backlog. Yeah. Although they do need some kind of list of prioritized work. So I'll fashion something that works for for their terminology and their appetite for it. I'll introduce some kind of, if it goes anywhere, I'll introduce some kind of prioritization tool, visualization. The silos, I won't say let's form a cross-functional team, but I'll probably say, look, well, these people are all kind of connected in this piece of value. So how can we change it a little bit so they do work together and you've kind of got your cross-functional team? Yeah. So delabeling it, listening. But I think a lot of what we've cracked and we haven't cracked everything, we're far from perfect, I know, but in IT, but we have cracked an awful lot.
We forget that sometimes.
The mechanics and the soft skills behind it all.
Yeah.
And a lot of it's really transferable.
Is that something you're looking to pursue from your own business point of view?
It is, yeah. I mean, we'll have to see how it goes. I've never really been the entrepreneur up to now, so I don't know whether I left it too late to get there. But I am putting myself out there. I mean, I was at a travel and tourism conference yesterday, really just to learn and hear from what's going on again in the region. I'd love to do a bit more work around Cumbria, but I think I'll have to. I think that will expand to the northwest because, like I say, it's really, really micro businesses up there.
Is that where you come across, the very little I know of it, like someone who likes to learn? Is that where going down the and please forgive me because I'm going to get the terminology completely wrong. The agile in the Jeff Watts pathway stuff, is that where
Agile Mastery Institute?
Yeah, that's the one. Is that because you wanted to learn or wanted to grow as like a more entrepreneurial, or what's the story behind that?
It was, I suppose the dominant thing there was the training thread, because I do enjoy training. I mean, that period when we were doing the RadTac stuff and standing up in front of a class and for 2 days, I love that. I really, really, really enjoyed that. And I was when it fizzled out in 2019, and then it didn't come back after COVID. From what I'm hearing about the training market, not just in the agile space, but in digital transformation, somebody was telling me yesterday, it's hard to get people to pay attention and to show up for stuff,
especially at public courses.
So I'm not sure that'll ever come back. But at the time, it was 2 years ago when I started with the Mastery Institute, I mentioned I really believe in the deep learning of the Scrum Master. So more than the 2-day course. And when Jeff said, I'm not doing any more 2-day courses, I'm putting my money behind this pathway stuff for deeper mastery-based learning, I just thought, yeah, I'm in. I love this. And, because I'd done one of Jeff's courses a few years before, I kind of, there's a bit of a leg up there to have the conversation about qualifying as a guide, which thankfully I did.
Have you got any courses coming up, or you?
I'll admit we're having a rethink about how to do it, because the pathways they've not sold on the numbers that we hoped. So, is it more micro learning now that people will want? Possibly, maybe the cost barrier, maybe the idea of a 6-month cohort learning pathway is too much of a behemoth to contemplate. I don't know. I mean, I think it's great value for money, but that's just me speaking about it.
Yeah.
There's also the attention thing, people's fragmented attention these days, part of the having an adverse effect on the training market. Don't know.
Yeah. I think everyone, whether it be a Kanban design course, CSM course, the Agile pathway, I think they're all suffering. I don't really know why. I've got ideas, but I think there'll always be a need for it. It's just really difficult. I think like you've got it's a marketing thing as well, potentially. Maybe it's not penetrating the right.
It is, maybe there's a lot of sort of hunkering down at the moment. The new kid on the block, AI, where's that going to take us? Is that taking the spend? Lots of things on pause, I guess, because of the state of the political world. But I believe we haven't stopped learning as a species, so it'll come back in some shape or form.
Yeah.
I hope not, anyway.
Fingers crossed. Outside of the Agile bubble, are there any particular things that you learn from like other industries, other sort of where do you draw inspiration from when you're not thinking about Agile, but maybe a thin link?
Yeah, I think for the in the professional world, it does come from the wider Agile sphere. I'm fascinated by the Toyota system.
Yeah.
I've got much more to read and learn about that, but the idea of the Toyota kata, the continuous learning the practice of learning. When I read about that, I thought it was amazing. I also think, softer skills like the ability to listen to understand needs a bit more airtime. Workplaces are usually civilized, but I'm sure the polarization is starting to creep in a bit, where do people really listen to understand? You think of meetings and conversations that you might be in. It's often somebody's queuing up to speak. And I think system thinking, or aspects of system thinking, like if I do more of this, if I increase this variable, am I more likely or less likely to get an increase in another variable?
Yeah.
That technique, I think that's amazing. I'd love to see more of that being overtly sort of modelled and practiced. I think it's a good thing business analysts can drive as well as Scrum Masters. I've tried it a couple of times, and the results have been quite something, and not always in a good way. People are not always keen to think about it. The one I like to use is if you increase the number of specialists in your team, will you have is it more or less likely to increase to result in, let's just call it agility at the end of the day, flexibility.
Yeah.
I remember doing that once, and managers were going, of course it will, of course I've got to have specialists, and they just couldn't go any further than that. Of course, it's common sense. And I go, look, analyze it step by step. And it ended up me versus them a little bit, but it was a good experience. But yeah, more of that willingness to really be open to ideas would do a lot of good right now, I think.
Is there anything in terms of, again, Agile, workplace culture, the way you go with the way you do things, that you may have changed your mind about slightly, or gone full, or not full circle? Because I mean, you mean the same thing, or a complete 180 on that you never thought you would?
In the Agile world, perhaps the term, the immutability of Scrum.
Okay, what
is?
That's
because if I'd created Scrum and I'd thought about it and put it out there and had all these successes and delivered twice the work in half the time, and given it to the world for free, and he'd given a guide, I'd say, here's how you do it. And I'd feel all right about saying, you don't have to do that. And you can even take bits of it if you want, but just don't call it Scrum, because it's not the same. As the creator of something, I think it's okay to do that. But something I've learned recently is that it doesn't allow for that inspection of the process itself. And that's a limitation. Okay. So if Scrum is not working, how does Scrum allow you to deal with that? I mean, you can just go, let's drop it and do something else. But so there's that. In the wider world, Jack, I'd say something I've changed my mind about, or thinking differently about, is contracting.
Okay.
And I never, even 3 or 4 months ago, I wouldn't probably have entertained that thought.
What thought is that?
Of is it bringing me is it bringing the joy and the contentment that I've told myself it is? It's hard out there. There's a lot of forces acting against you. And yeah, maybe it's not the be all and end all. I mean, I've loved the flexibility, and I've loved the. I'm talking in the past tense, aren't I? Maybe I'm giving something away without really knowing it. But I would never have done anything like that. I would never have gone to Seattle or met Lisa Adkins or any of that stuff or done this if I'd just been an employee. So it's opened up a massive world. And I'd hate to lose that. But it's not the only engagement model. And especially with all the state of the market, the absolute dog's dinner that IR35 is, and the hostile actor that HMRC is, even though you try and do everything right, there's this threat all the time.
Yeah. Ways, doesn't it?
Is it worth it? You know, maybe time to cash in. If I saw a decent Scrum Master or Agile Coach job, it might be all right for a few years. You know, you can still make a positive impact.
Yeah.
You know, it's not. You don't close off the world as long as I could find a way to keep engaging with the community.
Yeah. You're still contracted now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, won't last forever. So let's see what happens.
Have you got any advice for people who are like finding it particularly? Everyone? No, I'm going to rephrase that. Not everyone is finding it hard, but some are finding it harder than others. From your 10 years of experience, have you got any pearls of wisdom that people could maybe hold a bit of hope to? And the reason I ask you that, and I mean this in a positive way, I've got more respect for people who are constantly in work and don't shout from the rooftops. And you don't seem to do that. You're, from what I see, and I can only talk about LinkedIn, if you comment because there's a reason behind it, not to grab attention or there's mean. You don't say something unless you've thought about it. But you've obviously got a consistent 10-year contracting career behind you. So for people who are thinking, well, I don't really want to put myself out there as much, or, you know, what have you got any advice for that, about how you've gone about it? Is it the network? Is it just...
It's got to be the network.
It's a serendipity, is it?
I think I've been very fortunate, to be honest. I think, you know, I don't think there's anything special that I've done. I said I'm not much of the entrepreneur. I'm not much of a brander. You know, I don't have the visual brand skills, or I'm not particularly into... I'm not at all into the Lego thing, you know, so I don't really think I have a brand. I'm just a solid worker, and that's been enough. Reputation, thankfully, I've been able to keep reasonably intact for people who, enough people who consider it okay to hire me.
Yeah.
I don't really have any advice. I wouldn't say follow me. Yeah, be yourself. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm working with a good mentor at the moment in the States, and you know, she's helping me actually in these more difficult times. She's helping me make the transition from the IT contracts, which a lot of them just knocked on the door, which made it easy and made me probably a bit complacent, into talking to people about their problems and then creating a desire.
Yeah.
I've never had to do that, actually. So, yeah, I'm on quite a steep learning curve with this SMB, you know, new market thing.
Yeah, but I suppose the lesson or the advice there is be prepared to pivot, which sounds like you are trying to do.
Yeah, well, if we can't be agile and pivot, then how dare we stand up in front of anybody?
Yeah, yeah. What else is on your mind, Martin? Anything I should have asked you that I haven't? What can we do better as a community? So anything that you think, we let ourselves down there?
I think I've covered it, to be honest, really. You know, we've got to be self-aware. I think if we can stop this agile is dead thing, please. I've read enough about that. Just imagine the customers reading all of that.
Yeah.
Imagine all the dentists in the country having a dentistry is dead discussion every week and in dentistry online. It's not happening. What are we doing to ourselves?
Yeah. Do you think other people are reading it though outside the community?
I don't think they are. Thankfully.
Yeah.
But you know, I mean, we are a very active community online, which is good. But I don't know how unique that is, because I joined a whole load of groups, local groups. Joined about 50 groups when I started exploring other avenues. Half of them, I'm still waiting to respond. So they're obviously dead groups. The other half, you go in there, you post something, and there is no engagement, literally zero engagement. If there is something in those other groups on LinkedIn, it's somebody selling plastic rings or something. It's it's junk. So sorry, but yeah, it is.
Right.
So we are good at talking. I think we need to get out to the customers more. I mean, I try and do one conference or so a year, but I think I'll make that one every 3 or 4 now, because
Have you done one this year?
I did the Scrum gathering in Ghent.
Oh, how was that?
It was all right to catch up with people.
Yeah.
It's that thing about the photos where you don't know, where I said 2015, I never knew a soul, but now I'm a small name in the community, perhaps.
You speak in that, were you?
No, just went to engage. But I met some folks who worked on the growth wheel in the latter stages, and it was nice to put names to faces. But what struck me, it's just all Agilists talking to Agilists.
Yeah.
Where's the customers? And if I need some fresh input, I'll go. But I'm inputted up at the moment. I've got everything I need. I've got books I haven't read and blogs, posts I've saved and articles to write and finish off. I don't need any more right now. I need to get it in front of people and make it in front of customers, creating results for them, not like pontificating about it on social media.
Yeah. Sometimes I think one of the worst things you can do is put a load of Agile coaches, Scrum, Agile, whatever, practitioners in a room and just nothing gets done.
Yeah.
Sometimes, not all the time, before anyone starts. Because obviously
we came out with the growth.
That is proof of it. But
it's the what's the hurricane in a scrapyard thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Personally, I've not shown myself in the best light in those scenarios when I've worked.
You don't show up much in that side of the community, do you? I don't see you there, but you're plowing your own furrow.
You are. I think unless I can get something out of it from a business point of view, then it's preaching to the converted. I did Lean Agile Scotland would have been 2022, but that was because there was someone else who I'd served on a ship with, and we did a talk about Agile and warships. But to be honest, he did 80% of the work. But I saw it as an opportunity to put some stupid stickers up in the urinals about pissing away your Agile transformation.
I think I remember that one, yeah.
I genuinely don't think I've got that much to talk about. Like after 20 minutes, I like talking to people.
Yeah.
And panels, I think, fine. But actually, I think I went to Agile Manchester just for half a day, and again, it just doesn't. I don't really.
A lot of it's this, not decrying what people put out there, and there is some new stuff, but a lot of it is you've kind of heard in the different guys, now, haven't you?
And I'll be honest. Some of the keynotes have been some of the worst speeches. Like, just because one is good in the industry and is well known, doesn't mean should be doing a keynote speech. If I go to a keynote speech, I want to go out there. I want to leave feeling invigorated or have learned something. And I think sometimes being a keynote speaker and someone's reputation, I think the reputation goes before how good they are at speaking. And to be honest, some of the keynote speakers I've seen lately, they're all looking for work. And I think, well, there's something going wrong here, because I'm not going to listen to you if no one's engaging with you.
It's clearly part of your one's brand marketing strategy, isn't it? To to be a speaker somewhere.
Yeah, but it's normally the same crowd, isn't it? Most of the time, you preach like no one in the Agile community at a conference is probably going to buy from Everyday Agile. So I think, I might as well go and while they're all over there for 2 days, I'll do something over here.
Yeah,
it's
good. Yeah, and there's the same. Without the entrepreneurial thing behind me that you've got, just get me in front of the customers or potential customers or businesses with problems, and let's get down to work, folks.
Yeah. I don't think they like the fact that I put stickers up in toilets at their conferences and don't pay for a stall, and so I don't think I'll be getting invited as a speaker anytime soon, which is fine. But I see why people get value from them. I see why people newer to the industry get value from them. I just think it's the same names as well. Come on, talk about diversity. Bring some people outside of the Agile community to speak.
Yeah,
bring some people who are building something. Not just someone who worked in BT in 1999. Like, come on, be better if organising these conferences. But saying that, I'm sat here, I'm not going to organise my own. So I'm just shouting into a bucket, really.
That's all right. I'll probably, a couple of years, I'll go back, depending on what I'm doing, of course. Maybe driving a bus or something by then.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with that, mate.
Yeah, we'll see. A couple more years before I show up at one of those again, I think.
What's next? Where can people reach out if you want people to?
Yeah, I'd love to. This is
I think we're looking. Which camera are we looking at? That one to plug away.
It's just I filter everything through LinkedIn, as probably a lot of people do. It troubles me a little bit that I'm so reliant on it, but it's become the funnel. It's the easiest way now. It links off to. There is a website, but I'm kind of a little bit embarrassed if anybody clicks on it because I always think it's out of date. And LinkedIn is the easiest way.
Cool. Any final thoughts?
Or just come up to Kendall and first on the left, you'll see me there.
Yeah, you're on your bike around there a lot, aren't you?
I'm on the push bike a lot. Yeah, the road bike. Yeah, wonderful place to be.
Yeah, recent-ish move.
Yeah, a bit like yourself, I think. Around about the same time. Moved up from the south. So, coming up to 3 years.
Yeah, it will be. Yeah, I remember speaking to you actually February. Moved back up here. Thank you very much.
Pleasure. Thank you.